All right, welcome back to the Onebar and Lupagus show. I'm Onebar with Lupagus, and we got Anthony Rivardo in the middle from Fireside Giants, which means only one thing. It is time to skol with the enemy, baby. I've been waiting all year, week one. Anthony Rivardo, I'm going to say this is at least your third time being on the
I think
show.
it's his third.
Yeah, I've been on a few times. Happy to be back. Really like chatting with you guys. Giants and Vikings have had a couple of crucial matchups over the past couple of years. Obviously that playoff game, which did go our way. I don't know if this game on Sunday is going to go our way, but excited to go ahead, preview and discuss, what we're in store for on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, game that secured Daniel Jones' future with the Giants.
I was just going to say, we got right. It's Daniel Jones paid, man. You're
that
welcome.
Game was a win for us. We won the playoff game. But did we win the battle? Did we win the war? Right?
Exactly.
Like long term, was it a loss? I don't know. That's the question.
It is. Let's get this thing started. So Giants are coming off a 6-11 season. They lost some big names in free agency. They added some big names, and you actually got to see that process unfold on Hard Knocks. Can you comment a little bit about that? Just seeing the behind the scenes with your GM and your head coach, and just are they a better team than they were last year?
Yeah, the Hard Knocks series was really interesting. I'll even say on that note, I much preferred this new format of the off-season edition rather than the training camp edition. I'm always intrigued by what goes on behind the scenes, the decision-making process for NFL front offices. So that was a real treat, especially as a Giants fan, watching my team go through that process. A couple of things about the team building, though, that they did. First of all, we know that they tried really hard to trade up for a quarterback. Didn't work out. They're rolling into the season, sixth year of Daniel Jones. We'll see how that goes. He's coming off of a torn ACL. He played really bad last year. I don't know if this is a move that Giants fans should feel confident in. A lot of them do. A lot of them don't feel confident in Jones. We'll see how that unfolds. But in terms of whether or not this team is better, obviously they lose Saquon Barkley. They bring in Devin Singletary. I mean, you can't compare the talent of those two. Obviously, Barkley's a better player, but Singletary's been the more available player throughout his career, and he's been efficient enough. So I like what we have in the backfield. Rookie Tyrone Tracy as well seems pretty exciting. The big ticket move for the Giants, of course, came on the defensive end. Brian Burns, big splash, but it came at the expense of upgrading the secondary. And that's something that we were informed of during Hard Knocks, because in that one of those Hard Knocks episodes, Joe Schoen went to defensive coordinator Shane Bowen, new defensive coordinator Shane Bowen, and asked him, are you good with Burns? If we get you Burns, we're probably not getting you a cornerback. Maybe we can try to in the draft, but not in free agency. He said, I'm good with Burns. That's who I want. So the Giants are pretty much taking this approach this season of a really good pass rush can offset some of the lack of talent in the secondary. They tried to get a cornerback in round 2, also revealed in Hard Knocks. Didn't work out. Go with the rookie safety Tyler Nubin. Love that pick. I think he has a lot of great potential, but overall this team still has a lot of holes. On the offensive line, however, some pretty big upgrades, I think, with Jermaine Illuminor at right tackle, Evan Neal now to the bench. That was a draft miss. And then you have left guard John Runyon Jr. stepping in, and you project hopefully center John Michael Schmitz takes a step forward. So offensive line, that looks better. And then you go over to the playmaking department. Yes, they lost Barkley, offset by the addition of Malik Neighbors, who looks like an absolute superstar all throughout the summer. So did this team get better, finally kind of encompassing all of those points that I made on this roster building and the additions that they made? Yes, I think this team is better. How much better will be the question. And ultimately, that question only gets answered by Daniel Jones and how well he performs this season.
Daniel Jones. Yeah, you got some beloved Minnesota Gophers on your squad.
Yeah, just thinking about that.
Schmitz, Nubin. You got some dandies. And you kind of already answered this, but so Barkley is gone. Daniel Jones is coming back. What's the identity do you feel that this offense will be? Is it throw it to Malik Neighbors 50 times a game? Do you see Devin Singletary being a guy that gets the ball 15 to 20 times? What should we expect offensively on Sunday?
Yeah, for the rushing attack, I think it's going to be running back by committee this season. For the last 5 years, it's been Saquon Barkley touches the ball as many times as we can afford to give him the ball. And he's been the engine that's driven the offense home. This year, different approach. Like they really like Singletary. He'll be the primary lead rusher, but they added a lot of different talent behind him. Like they like what they have in Eric Gray, second-year running back. They really like what they have in rookie Tyrone Tracy, especially as a receiver out of the backfield. So I think that you're going to see different running backs based on different situations. Situational football is going to inform which member of this committee sees the field. So I think it's going to be a pass-first attack, though. I think this is a year where the Giants say, like Daniel Jones, we've got our questions about you. That's very obvious. Now we're just going to give you this offense and make you prove it. Like, if you don't put up big numbers, then we have to move on. So Malik Neighbors is going to be that new engine of the offense. He will be the focal point. He's going to touch the ball a ton. But not only him, I actually really like a lot of the other receivers that the Giants have. I think Wan'Dale Robinson out of the slot is a really good player, very reliable underneath option. And we'll see what we get out of Jalen Hyatt this year. He's a player that didn't necessarily impress me throughout the summer the way I wanted him to. But even still, I think he's splitting reps with Darius Slayton on the outside opposite Malik Neighbors. Hyatt and Slayton, I think, are both good players. Slayton is the more established one, but there's a lot of potential in this receiving core to be a very solid unit. They've got 4 quality starters there, so the playmakers are there. Again, the question just is, can Daniel Jones get them the football on time and with accuracy?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Daniel Jones, and obviously he's been a topic already throughout the 5 minutes we've been talking with you. What is your personal stance on Daniel Jones? Are you a believer? Are you not? And is this his final shot to remain the Giants starter this year?
I think I already know the answer.
Yeah, this is absolutely his final start. And to answer your question, I am not a Daniel Jones believer. Like, I tried really hard over the last 5 years. Okay, like going all the way back to when he was drafted. Yeah. I mean, I was devastated when they took him with the 6th overall pick. He played well in the preseason. I talked myself into it. I said, hey, he's wearing a Giants uniform. I'm going to root for him. He's our franchise quarterback. I'm behind him. So I got behind him, and I started rooting for him heavy. And then he had a couple decent seasons. The rookie year was good. Obviously, the season 2022, first under Brian Daboll, takes us to the playoffs. We win a playoff game against the Vikings. Have to, of course, keep pointing that out every time I can. And then going into that offseason, they had the opportunity to franchise tag him or extend him. I argued heavily on Fireside Giants, they need to franchise tag him. Extending him is not a good idea. Well, they go ahead, they extend him. Here we are a year later, regretting it. Buyer's remorse. I think it's very clear and obvious he's not the long-term solution at quarterback. I don't know how it could be any more obvious. I mean, whether you're talking about inconsistency on the field and lack of points scored over the last 5 years, or if you're talking about injuries. I mean, now he's coming off of a torn ACL. He also dealt with a neck injury last year. And reminder, he had a season-ending surgery on his neck in 2021. So 2 season-ending surgeries in the last 3 years, a few big injuries in between there. Only healthy season was 2022. And even then, statistically, he put up 15 touchdowns. It's not like this guy's throwing for 25 even, which is a pretty good number, but not even world-breaking. He threw 15. He scored 22 altogether. So, yeah, I'm not a big believer in him. I would like to see him bounce back and see this Giants team win a bunch of games, but unfortunately, I just think he's had his opportunities. There's only so much you can do to mask the deficiencies of a quarterback. And I think, the Giants' eagerness to draft his replacement, a Drake May and a Jaden Daniels, is what it seemed like they really wanted to target in Hard Knocks. I think that's pretty much tells you everything you need to know.
I got to ask you quick. So, like, everything you're saying about Daniel Jones reminds me so much of when the Vikings took Christian Ponder, where they just overdrafted him. They took him way too early than anybody else would have taken him, where he was just kind of set up to not meet those expectations. Like, at this point, do you just feel bad for the guy?
I mean, yeah, in many ways, I do feel bad for him. He's had a really bad hand dealt to him. Like that rookie season with Pat Shurmur, and then after one season, they fired Pat Shurmur. Then, of course, you get the Joe Judge era. He was head coach with Jason Garrett as offensive coordinator. That was a whole mess in and of itself. That was, really bad job done by the management. And then under Brian Daboll, they bring in some big ticket players. Darren Waller is supposed to fix this offense. He gets hurt, doesn't play a whole lot, and then retires. So this team has had opportunities to maximize things around Jones, and every chance they've had, for one reason or another, it just hasn't panned out. So I do feel bad for him, but at the same time, he's had those opportunities. He's had those chances. And now, especially in the past couple seasons, we've seen how some of these rookie quarterbacks step into the NFL and they elevate those guys around them. CJ Stroud stepped into what we thought was the worst situation in football last year. And I know it doesn't happen often, but he elevated everybody around him. He made all of those players better, and he looked like an MVP candidate at one point. Obviously, you're not always going to get a CJ Stroud when you pick in the first round. You hope you do. It doesn't happen. But we know that Daniel Jones isn't a CJ Stroud by now is kind of the point here. Why don't we take a chance on somebody who maybe could be a CJ Stroud? And again, they tried to this offseason. It didn't work out. So I feel bad for Jones. Injuries, all this crap has happened to him. At the same time, this is the 6th year being a starter. If there's not significant progress this season, then there are just no excuses. I don't care if Neighbors gets hurt. I don't care if the offensive line collapses. This is year 6. It's got to be on you to actually show that progress.
I can't believe the dude's been 6 years. That's crazy. So let's talk the game quick. So Vikings standpoint, Vikings fans, they're looking at this. I mean, Vikings obviously are kind of in the same boat as the Giants are this year. I mean, their wins are always projected around like 6, 7 wins as far as the Vikings. I know the Giants are around that too. But Vikings fans look at this as like they got to win this game. Like this is a must win. It's in New York, but expectations for the Giants are so low. It's like if we lose this game, like this season's going to be a disaster.
Well, the schedule's brutal too. I mean, we have 5 very, very tough games.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one game that we feel that we need to win and should win. My question to you is that what the Giants fans are thinking with Minnesota coming to town? Like, we got to beat these guys. They're not supposed to be good.
Yeah, 100%, because when you look at this Giants schedule, they have Minnesota week 1, and then they have Washington week 2, and after that, they go through an absolute gauntlet. So they've got Cleveland, who's got a great defense. Dallas is a good team. The Seahawks beat the crap out of us last year. The Bengals are great, then the Eagles and the Steelers, and then we finally get a break with Washington, who isn't expected to be that great. So you look at that schedule, it's a really tough sledding after these first 2 weeks of the season. So if you don't get off on the right start here in week 1 versus a Vikings team that maybe isn't bad by any means, but is beatable. I mean, if you can't beat the beatable teams in the first couple of weeks of the season, when are you going to beat any of these tough teams? So I look at it the same way. This is must win for the Giants, especially considering the start that they got off to last year, 40-0 trampling that they endured in week 1 versus the Cowboys. That was disgusting. They got to win this game.
You can tell in your face, you're still disgusted about that.
I forgot about that. That was disgusting. Almost as disgusting as those jerseys you guys are going to rock on Sunday.
Yeah, what the hell are those things?
Yeah, the context on that, back in the 1930s, I believe it was, the Giants wore those uniforms with the tan pants and everything, and 100th season. Yeah, that's what really ruins it, because I saw somebody do a mock-up of the jersey with white pants, and I was like, okay, that's not too bad. Yeah. Those tan pants are really ruining it for me. So 100th year anniversary of the team, that's the way they choose to celebrate. Whatever, not my cup of tea.
All right, I know the season hasn't started yet, but what do you expect to be the strength of this 2024 New York Giant football team?
So I expect it to be the pass rush, and that actually does kind of tie into the week 1 conversation here, because I'm not necessarily confident that the Giants are winning a bunch of games this year, and I'm not even going to say I'm confident in them winning on Sunday, but if they win, it's going to be because of that pass rush, putting pressure on Sam Darnold. It's not a secret. We all know when Sam Darnold is under significant pressure, he tends to make a lot of mistakes. So with Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Dexter Lawrence being your top 3 pass rushers, if they can get after Darnold and force him to make a couple mistakes, the Giants could win this game by winning the turnover battle. That's the goal in this week 1 matchup, and honestly, that's probably the goal of the entire season. They just need the pass rush to get home. That is the strength of the team. And again, that strength is supposed to mask the weakness of what is a very boom or bust, a young and inexperienced secondary. So really like the pass rush and hoping that's the catalyst to success.
Malik Neighbors mentioned him multiple times. Do you think like his rookie season is going to be just flying out of the gates where he is just a star week 1, or for what you're seeing, is it going to take a while for him to get his feet wet?
No, I think he's flying out of the gates fast. I mean, I think he's scoring on Sunday. I think he's having a big game, whether the Giants win or lose. Like, this offense is going to run through him. And what we saw all summer throughout training camp, it highlighted, yes, how bad the Giants secondary was, that nobody could guard him at all. But also when he played in that preseason game versus the Texans, he was covered on a few of those plays and pulled a rabbit out of the hat and made spectacular grabs. His route running was great. Did a breakdown of it on the Fireside Giants channel and took a look at all of his targets. I mean, the guy was just getting open every single play. He was phenomenal. And I haven't seen a Giants receiver move like that and make plays like that since Odell. And all the beat reporters that have been covering this Giants team have said this is the best summer of practices that they've seen from an individual Giants player since Odell. And in fact, they think it's better than Odell. So I have really high expectations for Neighbors. I think he's going to run into the season and get off to a hot start.
I think they call him Odell and not OBJ. I mean, that's original. I like that.
I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do you think the Giants, maybe you already answered this, had the biggest advantage or the Vikings this Sunday? Like a clear advantage.
Giants' advantage would be, again, that pass rush. I'm not necessarily saying that the Vikings have a bad offensive line, but they have a quarterback who is susceptible to folding under pressure. And that's the matchup that the Giants want to exploit. And I guess also in the secondary, the Vikings secondary, I know, is got its question marks. Signing Stephon Gilmore will do quite a bit for them and make you guys feel a lot better going into the season now that you have like an established perimeter boundary guy, and that's great to have. But still, I think we've got 4 solid receivers. If we're going to win this game, it's going to be because the pass rush gets to Sam Darnold, and then we capitalize with some of these playmakers that we have in the receiving game, scoring some touchdowns.
All right. Speaking of maybe winning the game on Sunday, not so much a score prediction, but are you expecting? Do you feel the Giants will get the dub on Sunday at home?
I do not think the Giants are going to get the dub. I would like to see them get the dub. I honestly, though, this game really feels like it could go either way for me.
Yeah.
But if I had to make the prediction, I think that the Vikings are going to win this one pretty narrowly, though.
Barn burner. I got to ask one more Daniel Jones question. Again, Anthony Rivardo, Fireside Giants. They're at 20,000 plus subs.
Wow.
They're just killing it over there. So get over there, give them a sub, give them a little crap in the comments as well. How the Vikings may or may not win. But so Daniel Jones, just one more. If Neighbors is having a tough time because Jones is having issues getting him the ball and it's just all on Jones, could you see them benching Jones early just because Neighbors is having issues and they throw Drew Lock out there?
Yeah, Drew Lock didn't look good in the preseason, so I wouldn't even be excited to see him get out there. I'm Italian, so I'm rooting for Tommy DeVito to get his shine again, put him back in the spotlight. You know, if I got to watch a bad Giants team, at least let me root for my paisano over there. You know, so but is Daniel Jones at risk of getting benched? Absolutely, he is, and it's not necessarily because of Neighbors or anything else. When the Giants signed him to that 4-year contract, it was really a 2-year deal with a team option after 2 years, essentially meaning they can cut him this upcoming offseason and save about $25 million in salary cap space and free up $50 million for the following year. So all of the guaranteed money is pretty much done after this season. However, if Daniel Jones does not pass his physical in March, that money that they would save now becomes fully guaranteed. They can't cut him anymore. So if Daniel Jones isn't playing so great that they need him on the field, if he's just good enough but replacement level, well, you got to replace him. You got to take him off the field because you can't risk him getting hurt and having that injury guarantee kick in. It's the same situation that the Broncos had last year with Russell Wilson, which is why they ended up benching him despite them being in the playoff hunt. The Giants, same thing. If they're not deep in the playoff hunt, if Daniel Jones isn't cooking, like he's not looking like a great player, you can't risk him going out there, getting injured again, failing that physical, and owing him another $30 million next season. So, yeah, I think that he's at great risk of getting benched early in the season if he doesn't produce big-time numbers, regardless of Neighbors being frustrated or not. It's just too much of a financial risk to even put him on the field in some instances.
All right. There you have it. SKOL'ing with the Enemy. Week 1 wrapped up. Anthony Rivardo, Fireside Giants. Links down in the description. Go over there and give them guys a sub. Anthony, we greatly appreciate it, man. This is fantastic.
Man.
Yep. Thanks for having me, and good luck on Sunday.